please close UI Bakery. Okay. Excellent. And then I think we should be live. So we can go ahead and start talking.
Looks like we are.
Excellent. Excellent.
Fantastic. Yeah. Looking around a little bit, I see I have the stream in the bottom left hand corner here. So if I look down, it's just me checking myself out and seeing how the stream's going.
Going.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So how's your day been, Carl? How are you doing?
My day has been excellent. So, I mean, I think a lot of people are here for the same reason, right? But my day has been ng-conf related.
Yes.
So I've learned a lot today, which is so much fun. Usually, when we go to conferences, I try to talk with as many people as possible. So I'm wandering the halls, I'm standing at the booth. Either I'm chatting with people that are attending the conference or team members that I haven't seen in months. So this was really interesting to actually attend a conference and start as an attendee throughout the entire thing and take notes. So it's been a lot of fun so far on the first day for sure.
It was nice. I kind of miss this part of conferences because I feel like lately over the last couple of years, I've gotten so caught up with all of the other parts that, I mean, I used to be that nerd in the audience with my notebook, like actually physically like writing down notes from all the sessions because I was just there to learn. And so I really enjoyed, like, I know like social distancing has been so hard and just not getting, I saw some tweets from friends and speakers at ng-conf that it just made me really like homesick for like the physical interaction and seeing my friends' faces.
Yeah.
But the other side of it, of like being in the comfort of my, like I spent the day on my back deck in the sunshine while I was watching talks. And so that was novel and a unique experience. I'd never got to attend a conference that way. And then getting back to the roots of like, I'm here to learn and I'm going to take notes and really watch each session. So I don't know, there's pros and cons. So it's been really neat.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And, we should definitely do a shout out to the folks at ng-conf, first of all, for being able to pivot this quickly and to put something like this together. And I had like maybe 2 hiccups in the entire day. One was on my side, just, not updating. And I quickly just realized, the session dropped down.
Right.
Like that was the first thing. And then the pizza chat where everybody typed out pizza and then
pizza chat.
And then everything kind of froze up. So
who was that?
That's really
the
only 2 bad spots.
Was that Jeremy? No.
It was Jeremy's talk, I believe. Yeah.
And he was like during his session, he was like, "All right, everybody, type pizza in the chat." And shortly after that, there was just no more session. So it was.
Yeah.
I think we tested the limits of what's the app that we're on? It's.
Oh shoot! I had it noted down somewhere, and then
Crowdcast.
Escaped my head.
Crowdcast.
Yeah, there we go.
So I think we test the limits of Crowdcast. So we were talking about our different experiences. You were in the browser today, yeah?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. I was using the iPhone app, and we were kind of comparing notes on like different times that we got dropped and how easy it was to like reboot into sessions. And I had, I think, an easier experience using the iPhone app. But so yeah, if you had a rough day on sessions in the browser, maybe try a phone app tomorrow and see if it goes smoother for you. So.
I'm going to try the iPad app, see how that works, since that gives me a fairly large screen. I can prop it up, so that might be what I try tomorrow. See how that goes.
Excellent. So we are here to give recaps and highlights on what happened throughout day 1, and we'll be here each day, the next 2 days after the sessions end, and we'll also have some prizes and maybe some surprise guests from ng-conf. So this should be pretty fun. I don't think we'll go over an hour each day, so don't worry if you're already mentally taxed from all the video sessions. We'll keep this brief but also fun. So
exactly. This is for anybody that either missed a session or just wasn't able to join live and are looking to just see kind of what happened We'll try to just cover each session in just a couple of minutes without giving away too much, since the speakers are going to do a much better job at explaining their topics than we ever would. A note, actually, and thanks to some of our lovely moderators here for posting that in chat. We're going to be giving away a pair of Bose headphones at the end of the stream. So you can win this, or enter at least for a chance to win it, by jumping into the little link that was posted there, the progress.co/couple of random characters. And that will just have a quick form, which essentially we're gathering some information just to make sure we can contact you and reach out to you, and then also send you your prize. So definitely, if you haven't, click on that while we're chatting here, and feel free to type in, and hopefully you'll be the one that ends up winning. We also have some other cool prizes that we can potentially give out. We have some T-shirts, maybe potentially one of these, lovely Kendo UI T-shirts, for example. We have a lot going on. So hopefully people in the chat can enter in and win. Ooh.
Sorry, I'm trying to see if we can get a guest on. So, Carl, you keep talking, and I'll see if we can get them to join in. Otherwise, we'll continue with the show.
Of course, yeah. So, this is one of our first times trying to do... Oh, okay. No. Say okay. So as this is happening, this is one of our first times hosting one of these kind of TLDR sessions. So it's going to be fun for us as well to be able to go through here and see if we can share enough information with everybody to get you filled in on what happened in ng-conf in each day. And of course, if you're watching this from the pre-recorded session, right, and you're watching this a couple of days later, there's still hopefully enough information in here to help you navigate through how things have been going at ng-conf. So if you want to, just use this as a quick reference for what sessions that you want to join in on, or if you are just looking to just get a quick TLDR, right? That's what we're here for. So Alyssa's just trying to see if we can get a mystery speaker.
Sorry about that, folks. I was trying to get our guest on the software, and I think I lost Carl in the process, but don't worry. After we chat with our guest, I'm going to bring Carl back in, and then we'll get to all of our highlights. So let me see if I can get our guest's audio brought in. One moment. We are pulling. Dun, 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 dun. And I think you are go for talking if you want to go ahead and test it out.
This is a test. This is only a test. Do not adjust the vertical. Do not adjust the horizontal.
Oh, darling. So this is Ward Bell with us. He's not in regalia, as he put it. So we're just interviewing him via audio today.
You'll have to imagine what I look like.
But we are so glad to have you on. So today we are going over we kind of wanted to mimic the hallway, the track that you get to talk and have interaction, but also kind of recap some of the highlights from today. So I thought it would be really fun to bring you on. You did a wonderful job, by the way, and I love.
Well, you're very kind.
The hat, and you also smashed it during the Q&A session, Ward. So congrats on an amazing day.
Well, you are very kind. I miss the hallway conversations. That's what I love about ng-conf.
Right.
So next year we'll do it. I mean, they've done a marvelous job with the technology that we have, as are you. But there's just no substitute for touching somebody. I'm a touchy kind of guy anyway, and I know there's good touching and bad touching, but you know what I mean.
I do. Today we were talking with, I think it was Shy and Mike Hardington, and there was a bunch of other people, I think Mike Brocky on Twitter, and they were sharing images from old ng-confs, and it just kind of made me homesick for that, where everyone's hanging out and being goofy and getting food. And so I also saw that in the chat a lot today, where people were talking about the parts of Salt Lake City that they missed. So I don't know. There are pros and cons, though. I feel like I got to really focus more on the content of the sessions and like get back to the heart of that. So I thought that was really neat from the conference.
Yeah, that's true. Because usually I don't attend any any of the sessions, right? Yeah, I'm too busy.
You're too busy with people and hallway tracks. So I enjoyed getting back to that, even though there's a lot that I missed. So Ward, is there anything that you'd like to say to people before we say goodnight to you and hit up recaps? Is there anything that you'd want to
I'm just glad you're all here. Really, it means a lot. It means a lot to all of us that you're here.
Well, thank you so much for jumping on, and I hope to see you in the chat in the next 2 days of ng-conf. So thank you, Ward.
I will be able to pay attention. When you're on, like I hardly heard. I didn't hear cars at all. I got to go back because I'm on deck, right? And then I'm getting ready to go on and all that other stuff. And then you're in the QA. So I caught bits and pieces of things that happened today. I was very impressed with what I saw. So
I'm super impressed and proud of the ng-conf team for pivoting so quickly and pulling this off. So. Oh, well, have a marvelous evening, Ward. We will say goodnight to you, and we're going to pull Carl back on the stream.
Alrighty. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Carl, darling. Oh, do we have our Carl, darling, back? Hang on, let's see. Oh, I saw a blink. I saw you blink.
I think you may be muted.
Okay, let's see. I'm muted for you, just not for the audience. So I'm back now with you.
There we go. I think I'm back.
Oh, I am
unfrozen.
So
yeah,
sorry about
I'm going to try to.
So we were talking.
Hey,
this is my second time streaming with OBS software, and I assumed when I pulled in Ward's call, like to join us all together as one big happy phone call family. I just kind of assumed that Carl's phone call would keep going in the background. I do apologize. I have to figure out how to three-way call in Skype, but I'll have it solved by tomorrow. That way we can all interview our surprise guest.
Oh yeah, we have some good guests. Ward was a great first guest, and I don't really know how we're going to top that, but we'll have to see.
So yes, sorry about that, everyone. We have our darling Carl back, and we are ready to hit up some recaps. So that was Ward. And
by the way, Alyssa, just doing a quick check. I think we need to make our notes a little bit smaller.
Is like
because our pictures are taking over. Yeah,
maybe is that better?
I'll do it a little bit more.
A little bit more. Okay. Sorry, one sec. I'm going to get us out of the way, and then I'm going to do this. Maybe. Good. Yeah?
Yeah. This.
More?
All right. A little bit more.
Okay. I apologize. We're going to
find
the magical number.
I say that's good. Yeah.
Awesome. So this morning we had opening remarks by our wonderful Aaron Frost, known as Frosty by the community. That was 9 a.m. Mountain Time, which was 10 a.m. my time. I'm in Central. What time was that for you, Carl?
11. So I'm on the East Coast in the U.S., yeah.
I love it. It's, I think, one of the most complicated parts of this for me personally, because I'm like doing math. It's like 1 hour math, right? But I'm like sitting here like this next session is at like it's quite amusing. So there was Normal and Wonderful Shenanigans by Joe Eames, came on wearing, I assume, a green screen cloak, and was the floating he was the floating head at one point. So I loved that. But those two they're such wonderful characters, and they're really great for our community. So I love their hosting. But yeah, so jump right in. The first one was with Jules, Kramer, and Erikson. And Jules, of course, was tuning in from the gorgeous Hawaii. And I think that was like 5 a.m. her time. So
Yeah, that's crazy to be up that early for sure. I don't know if that's their normal wake up time, but might doubt it, But either way, great talk for delivering it that early, for sure.
Absolutely. And so she kind of dove into her role and like what it's been like at Google for her. And then also talking about just some like managerial changes. They're bringing in a new manager from the Wiz team. They recently hired a new technical writer, so that'll be fun to see. And then they mentioned, which we need to throw out a link, maybe we'll tweet it out, to take the Angular 2020 survey. I know the Angular team really takes the feedback seriously, and they really, really do want to know how you're feeling and where they should be headed. So take that survey.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing for me that stuck out here is that she mentioned, trying to build an Angular that works for everyone. And I think that that's a big that kind of summarized her entire talk for me. Really, is kind of what's happening to make that happen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I need to turn off notifications so that we don't get tweets mid this. Sorry about that, everyone. But no, she did a wonderful job of opening it up for us and then passed it off to the technical lead on the Angular team, Erikson, whom I adore. I really could. I tweeted this at her this morning, but I could listen to her talk about Angular or code or really just like life. I don't know, anything for days, because there's just something about, have you ever like met someone that you're like, the way our brains think like is like the same way. Like I don't know, the way she explains things, like it could be the most complex thing and I'm just like, oh, okay, and now I'm with you. So
yeah,
I think as far as like an opening talk, she walked through a lot of her favorite features for version 9, and not just Ivy but other things like updates to Universal, and so I think her talk is one of the must-sees for me personally.
Yes. Yeah, it's great. I thought that I knew everything that came out with Angular 9, and I learned a couple new things in there, and specifically around some of the improvements they've done, like what kind of even just percentage-based, performance improvements you'd see just out of the box without any upgrade. With upgrading, but without doing any additional work. That was really cool to see. So definitely check that out. Even if you think you know stuff about 9, I think that you should definitely check it out, because there might be some things you just aren't aware of, or if you just want to know what kind of happened under the hood to make some of those improvements possible.
You're so right, and I'm actually going to jump ahead because what you just said, it reminded me of this tweet that she put up on screen that said they were talking about their experience with Angular 9. It said, I just updated my mid-size app from 8.2 to version 9 with Ivy, and the total bundle size decreased from 973 KB to 669 KB with a 31% improvement with no effort from my part. And that's something she wanted to highlight was, the no effort from my part, which is what you just mentioned of just everything that we're getting for free with this latest version. So
yeah, and that's for a medium-sized app that she mentioned. They might see the least amount of improvements compared to large applications and small applications. So to see that in a medium-sized app, I think anybody out here building a huge application. I mean, I'm sure there's some of you on the stream right now that are building massive Angular applications. So from my understanding, you could see upwards to like 40% improvement just by upgrading to Angular 9, which is crazy.
Well, and
an upgrade of the frame can do that.
You're so right. I think even smaller apps, though, that aren't, I think another type of app that's going to notice a big bump is smaller applications that aren't using every part of Angular, because of the way that Ivy is now compiling things, you're going to be able to tree shake more and therefore notice a bigger bump as well. So so excited about this drop. And she walked us through, there was 3 goals. I'm going to jump.
Yep. So I have them jotted down here. Yeah, exactly. So smaller bundle sizes, make Angular faster. Let me make sure my fingers are in screen here. And then the third one was simpler code bases, especially, and she followed with especially as projects grow.
Yes.
So start off simple, of course, but continue then to make sure that the Angular applications are manageable, right? Even in large applications. So lots of good stuff that she brought up in there. Some she didn't have time to cover absolutely everything in detail, but still enough clues for people to be able to jump in and check that out and be able to dive in even more, I think, into some of those topics.
Absolutely. I think if you take away one thing from hers, you have to go and see the part in her talk where she's debugging and showing how like the stack traces are so much simpler and how there are actually new things that are added on to NG Global that help with debugging. So that part literally blew my mind, and I was like, yes, please. So
yeah. To be honest, since I have to deal with a lot of different frameworks in my role, right? A lot of different JavaScript frameworks. I can't keep track of what's happening in absolutely every one of them. But I think I missed out on something big in Angular when I saw that you could just use the ng variable and then be able to do all the cool stuff she was doing debugging. Blew my mind. So now I know that my next Angular app is going to be way simpler to debug and work with than what I've been doing.
So they definitely met those criteria of smaller, faster, simpler. So check out her talk if you missed it. I think the next up was Ward Bell, whom we just heard from on the phone call. And he talked about HTTP. I can't say it, Carl.
HTTP. HTTP interceptors. There we go. I tried to make a joke and then I just made it so that I stumbled over myself instead.
Actually, when he opened his talk, he stumbled on it too, and he just like went right into hard to say but easy to use, and I was just like, Ward, right? That's so Ward Bell. But no, I loved his talk. It kind of made me a little sad though, because there was a couple of talks that you could tell they hadn't completely stripped out the musical theme, because everyone had to pivot last minute, right? Like this was supposed to be a musical and everyone was really getting into that spirit, especially with their talks and the theming. And so anytime I see remnants of musical theme, I just have kind of like a pang of sadness. So that was, he was in the full get up, and it was very, very Hamilton. So
yes, extremely. I loved it. This talk is, if you're at all interested in what you might be able to do with these interceptors, you should definitely check out the entire talk at length, because I don't think we're going to be able to do it justice just in a TLDR kind of format. There was a lot going on just explaining what they are and some patterns that you can use with them. And for example, I think the biggest takeaway was using a barrel to organize all the different interceptors that you might have. So chances are, if you start using these, I feel like, once you get hooked, you're definitely going to use a lot of them. So that was kind of my big takeaway. Well, as I'm playing around with this, I should also create that kind of barrel just to make sure it's easier to manage. That was definitely the biggest thing that stuck out for me.
I was amazed by, I think Frosty asked Ward during the Q&A session afterwards. He was like, okay, Ward, but like, how many of your projects are you actually using HTTP interceptors? And Ward was like, I think I can literally confidently say all of them, because he does a ton of client work. And so he said on like his latest one, he actually pulled it up while he was on the Q&A and looked, and he was like, I've got 8 like interceptors that I built for this project. And he started listing them. It was like debouncing for getting calls, and logging, read only, accept JSON, and queuing up for requests. And the list went on. And so he was, it's funny, he was just like, I can't imagine not using them in a project.
Yeah. And I think to me, as somebody that hasn't used them, that my biggest takeaway from the talk, outside of how to set one up now, is just why you might start using them. Oftentimes our requests go from the client through all these different things down into the server, right? It's a full life cycle, then it gets spit back. But what if you can stop that before it even hits the server and it's in your application? So just having that in terms of either, performance improvements, whether it's the actual, seconds in your application, or if it's just something that your user kind of gets quicker feedback on, I think they're definitely good to start implementing.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not, start off with like 12 or 20, to begin with, but I'm sure any application can implement at least a handful right off the bat.
I'm definitely one of those people who's like, oh no, we need all 20, but yeah. Yours is a much more logical choice. Let's just start off. Let's just dabble. I like it. I like it. So definitely think his interceptor talk is one to see. I think the next one was from Manfred, and he was tuning in from a spaceship, which I loved.
That's right. Yeah. I'm actually going through Star Trek: The Next Generation, so
So it was like
it's something that I only
perfect.
caught episodes of here and there. So it was perfect for me. I felt right at home. Deep in a couple seasons now, thanks to being able to stream that, and felt right at home there for sure.
So Manfred his session was going over how Ivy will improve your application architecture. And he used case studies to explore a possible future without ng models and the use of dynamic components, higher order components, which he defined and explained. And then I think I actually have a screenshot of this. And then he talked about zoneless change detection and new possibilities for lazy loading and plugin systems. So Manfred's always awesome, and definitely I loved his session. So.
Yeah, I think this is good from just a concept because he not only explained, of course, what each one of these type of components are, but he set the stage in terms of what improvements Ivy brought, and then started talking about what kind of you can start taking advantage of in Ivy, right? And I believe one of my favorite things that came out of his talk was he mentioned that the future hasn't been written yet. So while he's kind of scraping the surface here with this talk and getting the creative juices flowing, I think there's going to be, I think, as people start using this, there will be scenarios that I think even the Angular team didn't think about, of patterns you can start implementing or ways you can take advantage of the changes in Ivy that we'll probably see in next year's ng-conf of somebody come up with some really cool stuff. So I think that was really cool of him to kind of mention that.
It's very, I like the spaceship because it was very forward thinking. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that I heard the GDEs talking about a while ago, was like the possibility of going moduleless and what that would look like. And these things are fascinating to me. And I'm still not to that point of like, conceptualizing it in my head. I love these brilliant people though around me that can do that. So I'm excited for what the future holds now that we have Ivy to stand on. So
Yeah. Hey, I'm excited for all the content people are coming up with. It's going to give me plenty of blog posts to read throughout the year, and I'm going to sound more and more like an Angular expert and Ivy specific expert thanks to that. So,
so the next one was a little shocking. I don't know if any of you were there on the Twitters when Mike Hardington he got rid of the beard.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, as somebody that has a beard and has had one for a while, although I don't think it was as magnificent as what I have rocking now was not it didn't really hold a candle to his beard. And I think he'll grow. You know, it looks like it's on its way back already. But yeah, I think
And
that was the biggest shock. I don't know if people got over that for the first 5 minutes.
It turned into like a GoFundMe or something. Like if they earned so much money, then he would shave the beard, and so then he did that live on Twitter. And apparently Frosty also got looped into this, and so he's going to be chopping off pieces of the beard tomorrow. But he's not doing it all at once. He's gonna like you'll slowly see the beard disappear. So this is kind of terrifying.
I think if it's happening tomorrow, I'm looking forward to it. Just randomly, less and less beard appearing. There's a lot of fun you can do once you start taking it off. So I'm sure we'll all be thrilled.
So yes, so the newly beardless wonder, Mike jumped into a deep dive on CLI builders, and it was really neat. I loved how he kind of started from the ground up of, hey, like this is what a builder is, and this is why you may not know because not everyone's writing their own custom builders, and then this is what they can do for you. And so really, really enjoyed his talk on how to do that, and if that's something that you feel your company needs to get into or is getting into, I would check out his talk for kind of a baseline knowledge of getting there.
Yeah, I think I always have one takeaway from each one of these to make sure that I can come in here with my notes, of course. But essentially, if you're not familiar with what a CLI builder is, a perfect scenario for it is if in between all the times you're running, ng server, even as you're trying to, build or deploy using the Angular CLI, if you're running a bunch of npm commands and scripts in between, you can actually bake those into the Angular CLI using the CLI builders. So now all you're doing is essentially providing your own command names and just using this kind of command name colon and then your custom ones. And it seemed like you can even pipe them into other commands from the Angular CLI itself afterwards as well. So it's and he created a quick kind of sample of just a process instead of just happening and then he spit out, hey, it finally happened. He had a process bar happening across the terminal. It was used in ng-conf, so the rainbow behind the cat and the terminal grew. But I think just that quick example should make it click for a lot of people. So definitely check that out if you think that it's a nightmare working with all the different commands that you have in the terminal and try to streamline things for sure.
I think that's one of those takeaways that I got from the Q&A session afterwards, when I love when Frosty breaks things down, because he was like, okay, what is an actual, what's an alert or a flag that should go off in our heads of, hey, I should create my own custom builder for this. And so I think if you were questioning, are the Q&A sessions worth it? Do I have time to go grab pizza? I think definitely keep it on in the background, because they were fascinating, I thought. So.
Oh, for sure. I cranked it up to the highest volume so I could hear it as I was running and grabbing water. Yeah. But there was a lot of good information coming out of there.
And he listed out some great examples of custom builders. So check those out if you need more ideas of what you can do. So.
Oh, yeah.
So the next one was, I don't want to butcher poor Jeremy's last name. Is it Elborn? Is that how you say it?
I believe so. Cool.
We'll say that's how you say it.
The stream cut up a little bit for me right as he mentioned his last name. So I just caught Jeremy. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I love it. Jeremy did a philosophy for designing components with composition. And this one, okay. So both Carl and I work for Angular. Not Angular. We work for Kendo UI. I work for the Angular branch. He works for every flavor under the sun because he's a genius. And we both kind of hardcore nerded out over Jeremy's talk. We were in Slack and like, are you seeing this? I'm seeing this.
Probably this one hit the closest to home. All these other ones, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see how our people using Kendo UI for Angular can take advantage of this, right? But this talk, I was like, yes. Tell more people about this, and this definitely is, I think, why we geeked out so much while the talk was happening.
I just did an empowering your developers to create custom UI at a manager workshop for ng-conf, and it was kind of in the same vein of what can we do to kind of, I don't know, make this process easier, because I loved he hit on this this is the 5 steps of basically, denial was the first one. Nobody's going to need to override my CSS. And eventually you hit sadness of, people are overriding my CSS, right? Eventually you get to acceptance of, I need to write CSS that's overridable. And so I love that.
There was a lot of good in there for sure. I think to speak to the screenshot that you have up there mentioning why Aria. I think a big part of that, right, is, thinking about the interactions that you're going to have on the page. So, the examples he brought, for example, a drop down. We all kind of know what to expect, right? If you just see a drop down on the screen, you click on that and you know that, okay, a pop-up is going to happen. It's going to have some values. I select it. We know what happens, for example, with the volume slider, right? I'm going to drag a ball from left to right, and then tabs, right? I know that when I click on the different tabs, what's going to happen. And just thinking about, okay, how can we use the Y-ARIA roles, which there's 70 roles right now that are defined. So like list box, checkbox, tabs, navigation, things like that, right? And to think about every piece of your application in the sense of those roles, like the interactions the users are going to work with those roles, not only benefits, of course, accessibility, right? Because the Y-ARIA standard is helping with that, but it also just, I think, primes your applications so that you can have better user experiences because you kind of know the intention behind every component. So that, I got really into that. I was like, yes, 100% accessibility and improved user experience.
Wow. I
So
freaking love that breakdown, Carl. And now I kind of want you to do like your own version of Jeremy's talk. Like, I really do. Like,
I don't know if I can hold a candle to it.
there was
Yeah.
a point in when Jeremy was trying to marry two concepts, and I think you just made it click for me. So thank you seriously for that rundown. That was
Oh,
beautiful.
yeah. Oh, awesome. Yeah. Hey, the TLDR helped connect things, so hopefully it helps with other people on the stream as well.
So I think the end half, or I guess maybe the main chunk, was decomposing your styles into categories, and he was talking about how you can use SAS mixins to
Yeah.
make this happen.
Yeah, it was interesting. Some examples that he brought up was having, just like having the screen now, right? The base component styles, then the color, typography, animation. So if you essentially decompose that and spread that out as much as possible, it allows users to easily customize parts of your components without like having to override CSS or write, exclamation point important anywhere, right?
I
Like
love
you don't
this.
have to do that. And the cons are, of course, yeah, it might take a little bit longer to start, to think about the components this way as you're building them. But the payout later from when folks are actually implementing them is huge. And it's not just the CSS part of it. He also started talking about that for how components are being built. So when we're talking about Angular material, for example, a lot of their components are built in such a way that pieces of them can be replaced. And he brought up a data table, which is something that I'm very familiar with, where data table has a ton of different interactions like sorting, paging, grouping, filtering, and instead of having this like mono component that just has everything kind of baked into it, so you have the pager, you have the table itself, and you have like the sortable header. That all know about each other. Instead, you compose the component in such a way that they're all separate, so they can easily be hot swapped, for example, while having like the data source essentially in charge of making sure that they can communicate with each other, which is a really cool idea. And to be honest, in a way, we're following a similar setup with Kendo UI for Angular. So that
he's coming from a material perspective and what their team's doing.
Yeah.
Where are we at with this?
So, we have a lot of ways for us to be able to override aspects of what's happening within our components as well, whether it's, quickly inserting, some custom component on top of what we already offer, or injecting pieces of, whatever you want to do for a custom UX into them. We're actually opening this up even more, but it's just so cool to see somebody that's, of course, we have expertise within our team, but then to see somebody coming from Angular material and seeing how they're structuring their components, thinking about ways to just make them a little bit better to work with, and also, of course, better for the end user in the end, right? So definitely a cool session, not just because we're geeking out over UI components, working with UI components every day. I know that might seem a little bit biased, but I thought there was a lot of cool stuff in there.
I think it's definitely a must-see, and I loved the main theme about decomposing and being deliberate when you're recomposing. And so I don't think it's necessarily only for the big dogs out there, the big libraries out there. I think you can do it on a smaller scale for your team. So check out Jeremy's talk. Freaking loved it.
Definitely do. Yeah.
So next up, we missed out on Sander, and I'm wondering if he was one of the ones that had technical difficulties and couldn't join in. I think there was a couple of sessions that got reworked during the day, and so I'm hoping that we'll see those later on in the conference. Tune in for more. We'll see. But next up was Wagner, who talked about Angular Universal and the new pre-renderer. I loved, Carl and I were talking about notes for each session, and you made me laugh so hard. You were like, basically, server-side rendering really works, and you should use it. So that was...
Yeah, that was my kind of takeaway. I was like, if you're not using it, you should definitely check out if you have scenarios that work with it and use it. It's not a universal. See what I did there? Approach to building Angular apps. Yeah. But it definitely can benefit you if you're in the right scenario.
And it's like such a hot topic right now. Seriously, like with all of the I don't know, this like kind of this wave of hot topics of like Jamstack and Scully and I think, Universal and who's better and pre-rendering, and there's a lot of I guess buzzwords around this right now, but I think it is definitely where we're headed. So I think just stay informed and watch his talk. He had a really cool, I think it was a live reloading demo. I don't know if you saw that one, Carl, but I loved that.
Live reload with SSR,
Yes.
which that hasn't been possible
Right, because
before.
in my
So thanks
head,
to Angular
I was
9.
like, wait, this is possible? Like, because those two,
Yeah.
those two things
Yeah.
don't go together, but they do now. So
Yeah, it's super cool, and I think we've gone through Angular is a part of this movement, right? Of just pushing so much to the client that we're now seeing people once again realize, oh, actually, hold on, you can do some stuff on the server before pushing everything to the client and doing everything in JavaScript, right? So I think this talk highlights that even more, and the new pre-rendering that they've set up with Angular 9. There was a good sample that he brought up of a Pokedex where you could
yes.
just type in like hundreds because the last Pokemon I played had 150 Pokemon, but apparently there's more than that. It created these pre-rendered routes for every single Pokemon, right? So like hundreds of routes in just a couple seconds, actually, which was really cool. So they're all handled in parallel too, so it's not just sequentially. You have to wait for the compiler to spit them all out. So there's definitely some cool stuff coming out from both of these technologies with Angular 9.
Absolutely loved it. So the next one, the very infamous and wonderful Deborah Kurata. Why should you care about RxJS higher order mapping operators? Seriously, love that woman. She is another one of those people who she just explains something and it'll be something that I've kind of been struggling with for a while, and then when she talks about it like it's butter on toast, and then I'm like, oh, it's butter on toast, like, and so
Yeah. Yeah, as somebody, I'll be honest, and this, we might have people signing off being like, well, I can't listen to Carl anymore. I haven't used RxJS personally. So these were concepts that dove into some cool stuff with RxJS. But thanks to the way that she presented it, I was able to tag along and get an understanding of, okay, yeah, once I start using RxJS, I can see how this is useful. And I'm sure people that know it got even more out of it. So there's a lot going on there. I think there were some technical hiccups kind of across the board on this one, unfortunately.
It was one of, I think, our hardest hits during the stream today, where we just kind of lost a chunk of time with her. But they were assuring us that it was recorded and that you can go back and watch it now. And so if you were one of the ones that was like tuned in and you were waiting to hear, about, because she kind of, I think it was right when she hit switch map, and then everyone in the chat was like, but what about switch map? So
yeah, and there was some follow-up in the Q&A about that, which she kind of did what we're doing, a TLDR of that section of her talk. But to me, my takeaway from this is if you're doing any form of RxJS, you should check this out. Because it seemed like you can do. There was a lot of things that seem like they should be very simple to do that actually are kind of hard to do without some of the approaches that she was talking about in here. So just simplifying your RxJS code base, I think, is warrants enough to just check out this talk and see some strategies you can start implementing.
And again, she's one of the rare ones that she flies at such a high level because she's just so smart, but she can still drop down and teach those basics at a moment's notice. So if you ever have a chance to watch something from Deborah, I highly recommend it. She's brilliant. So
for sure.
Next up, the Brian Love. So he is on, I think he was on 2 podcasts with me. He's only on 1 now, the Angular show. And it's so funny. Every time Frosty introduces him in the podcast, he's like, B-Love, or he's like, Brian F. Love. And I don't remember why his middle initial is always attached to things. I think there was like a username involved, but anytime I see him, I just want to yell "B-Love," and it's just. But he did a really good job. He talked about the phantom of the template error.
Yeah, and this was a lightning talk too, which when it first started, I didn't know that, and then he wrapped up real quick, and I was like, "Wait, I learned so much in five
That was
minutes, and this is
so
it."
funny because
Yeah,
it was like 5 minutes, and then Carl was like, "Wait, where'd it go?"
yeah,
hmm
yeah. I barely looked at the schedule. I was in the stream. I was taking notes. I didn't know when we were stopping, when we were going until they mentioned something,
I
which I think speaks really positively, right, for the conference and the talks we were doing, but. I would say the screenshot that you have up right now, the 15%, that was the biggest thing where he talked about, you can get 15% less
mhm.
bugs just by implementing type
Yeah.
checking in your project. And the number, it wasn't just pulled out of a hat. I know sometimes people love just pulling up statistics, but there was research that had been done
Mhm.
around looking at all open issues on JavaScript specific projects and then seeing could those like what portion of those issues could have been fixed right away with just type checking,
Mhm.
and that's where the 15% came in.
Yeah.
So and that's, I mean, data driven.
No,
So
and
as often as I sometimes avoid using TypeScript, I'm pretty sure that even myself would benefit
Mhm.
from 50% less
Well,
bugs.
and I think it was again during the Q&A session that he was talking about, if you're wondering, is this something we can do? Go ahead and flip strict mode on, recompile, rerun your code, and see how bad it is.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know how to
Oh
say
yeah, and
that better.
that's a new feature in Angular 9, right? Where you have different types of type checking modes. So the first one, which was default, I think, then full, and then
It was like
strict.
basic
And
full strict. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
basic. Sorry, yeah. I missed the. I have a question mark there. So I was like, default, was that it? But the idea, right, is that basic is just does the regular type checking that you're probably used to, but then full and strict just go into these hardcore modes where it's even checking like deep down into your application. So I think, yeah, the strategy of just turning on strict and seeing
Yeah.
what happens. I think is definitely going to be an interesting exercise, but sounds like it's something that once you start that and once you're into it, you can definitely benefit from
Yeah,
it. So that's
I
just
kind of am
a new
itching to
flag
go
you can
do that
set.
now. So I
Yeah.
love it.
Don't do it on too many projects. You might get upset at yourself, like I usually get whenever I do any extra linting on my projects. I'm like, oh, Carl, come on.
It's like I typed it. I typed it. Nothing. Like.
Yeah.
Oh, so the next one was the marvelous Stephen Fluin talking about the common challenges facing Angular enterprises, and he mentioned during the very beginning of his talk that last year he actually did a very similar talk and he ran through these kind of common things. And so I loved it because in this one, he went over challenges that he had recently witnessed and ones that he'd kind of seen since he gave that last talk, just firsthand with enterprise companies and things that they were running into. So I thought it was,
Yeah, I think even if you're not in an enterprise, there are some things that you can learn from this talk. For
mhm.
example, yeah, actually, what you just threw up there. Now that we're all trying to work from home, having even if it's a hand drawn sign that says live recording
Mhm.
happening. Actually, it's funny. As this talk happened, my sister texted me a picture of what she's doing. So she's hunkering in with my
Oh,
parents,
yeah.
and they don't necessarily understand that she's on evening
No.
calls, right? So she has a little sign like that for when she's on, any sort of call or screen sharing. So happened almost at the exact same moment. I was like, well, there's something going on in the universe that this popped up on the stream and on my phone at the same
Yeah, we
time.
have my husband bought an LED cactus from Amazon and he's hooking it up right now with if this then that for any time either of us have like a live event on our calendar and it'll light up outside of the office. So that'll be our
Ah, nice.
I don't know why a
Yeah.
cactus. He said he just liked it. So that's, I don't know. I loved, though, that Stevens, his live presenting in progress sign, that was for today's session. So that was brilliant.
Yeah.
So it has been interesting, all of the different challenges and just watching, because, me and you, we work primarily remotely and have been working remotely. I think you go into the office way more than I do, but to see like almost the whole world switch into remote has been interesting and challenging. So
Yeah, definitely. And Stephen wasn't the only one that brought up some of that along the stream, and I think it's good that we're acknowledging it. And there's some humor in it as well, right? That when we do this, we definitely lack the professional setup if we were in a studio, for example, right? But that we can still create a ton of good content and contribute a lot, even with these kind of setups that we have going on right now. But to go back, I guess, to the content of his talk specifically, there's a lot of good stuff in there, not just for enterprises. Of course, enterprises might be a little bit unique. So if you are in a traditional enterprise, let's say, right, definitely check out the talk. But even if you didn't, there's some good stuff around, for example, micro front ends. Like, what does that really mean? Because I think there's a lot of drama around it, and people think of different things when they talk about micro
Yeah.
front ends. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've had to give my take on them when somebody's given me a completely different take. Like, we're using the same terminology,
but you're not meaning the
but
same thing.
but we're not talking about the same thing. So it's interesting. So I'm not going to talk about the pros and cons of micro front ends here on the TLDR, but I think he broke it down very well into these are actually the things that people think about when they talk about micro front ends and how that can affect the enterprise Angular developer. And honestly, as I'm talking about it, I feel like this goes beyond Angular. It's not just Angular for some of these items that he brought up. It can be for any large organization looking to figure out how to structure applications or how to deal with new technology trends and everything like that.
No, absolutely. And I love that it was enterprise focused, but I definitely think that anyone can learn from it. So check out Steven's talk, 'cause it was a great session.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and I should mention, by the way, it's not just micro front ends. It talks about server-side rendering, mono repos and code sharing, dealing with varied environments, and business justifications. Not just around deciding on a framework, but just alongside with some of the pieces they was talking about earlier as well. So definitely something good for enterprise developers to bring back to their managers of said enterprise developers to bring up higher up in the organization. So lots of good topics in there for sure.
So next up, following Stephen, was John Papa, JP. He talked about preload strategies, and his, again, was one of those that made me a little sad because it was step in time, Mary Poppins themed. But it was a wonderful, wonderful talk that dove into different preloading strategies, what they are, and which ones you should choose for yourself.
Yeah, and that's really the best summary I think I could give. He talked about in the beginning that usually we decide between two extremes, right? Either you load, for example, in the case of loading, right? Either you load everything in the application and make the user wait on the first initial load, or you do the lazy approach, which is wait whenever you navigate to a new route. But he said, even the impossible is possible, to go along with the Mary Poppins theme, right? And talked about how there is actually a middle way that you could take. So it's not just having to decide between one or the other extreme. You can take a middle road in order to be able to improve your application performance. And I think a lot of times, especially because I deal a lot with like PWAs, for example, right? So mobile first is huge, and sometimes I feel like people talk about these kind of strategies as just for the mobile world, but that's not necessarily the case, right? Yes, they can benefit mobile because we're running a slower connections, and John actually went through and kind of showcased just for an extreme like how this would look like on a 3G connection. But just imagine the world we're in today, where YouTube is cutting down on their 4K and even 1080p streaming, right? And Netflix and all these other companies are doing that because they're using so much bandwidth. Just think about what if you needed to optimize your application at that point, right? Or if you're creating applications for folks out in the field or like in a factory or something like that, where Wi-Fi might not be everywhere because you're surrounded by concrete or something like that, or a cell tower is really far away.
I did a talk at ng-conf. It was either last year or the year before about service workers and cows, because I was in the very middle of the U.S. in Oklahoma, and it was a lake town, and they literally just didn't have like internet it was literally comparable to I don't even it was like worse than tethering. It was like I think pages were taking about 15 seconds or longer to load, and that was the best that we could get at the time. And so it was kind of a wake up call for me, because I'm like, I'm in like the middle of the US, like there should be signal, like I should have internet. So I think anytime, whether you're mobile or not, anytime you can speed up that time to first contentful paint, that time for your user to see something, to interact with something, is money saved for your company, or money earned for your company. So.
And it's not that difficult to start even taking an existing application and start doing some of these strategies, right? Because you don't have to do it all at once. You can do it piece by piece.
Which I think is so heartening, because so many people are they're in the all or nothing mode. They're like, I'm going to have to do
rip and replace. Yeah, or it's a new strategy. I have to completely rebuild this. So, and some of these things are new with Angular 9, right? And some of these are concepts that we have in like the PWA world being brought into like Angular as a framework, which is great, right? That just spreads this even more. So I think it's definitely something people should check out. I know I've said that in every talk, and because I learned something for every talk, but this hits hard for me as well, just knowing that is something that I can start doing within my applications, right? Not one or the other, that there's a way to be able to start doing some preloading. And like John went into some ideas around not just, okay, I will preload these explicit routes. You could also do some guessing and say, oh, I think this is what the user behavior is, so I can start preloading based on some other actions that the user's doing in my application. So doing some intelligence around it too is pretty neat.
No, absolutely. Love John Papa, and I think he did a great job. So check out his session if you missed it, or if you just missed part of it. So yeah, definitely worth catching up on. Our last one was another lightning talk. Did you catch this one? It made me.
I did.
My goodness.
I was laughing the entire time. It was great.
The wonderful Yvonne Allen did a killer job. Farewell to entry components. She really embraced the like the news vibe. You know, even was like faced backwards in her chair and whips around, and it had all these like slide effects, and it was I don't know, it just really made my day. It was fantastic.
Yeah, the content was definitely good, but I should say 10 out of 10 on the slides for sure. That's something that I know that whenever I create something, I'm like, oh, slides have to be perfect. But now, immediately put to shame with the work that she put in for them. So
and you could tell she was just so passionate about it, and I just immediately, it was like an Insta follow on Twitter, and I'm sad that I didn't know her before this moment. So
put a huge smile on my face, and I was like, that's a great way to end the first day, for sure.
Yeah, she covered how basically entry components are a thing of the past. They were needed to basically tell Angular what we needed to insert at runtime, but they've been given the boot, of course, with the new Ivy renderer, and I really, it's a 5-minute session, but it will brighten your day. So please check it out, and give her a follow on the Twitters too. She's amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that is all I have for us. I'm actually going to pull up, just because like it makes me so happy, I'm going to pull up the image of the floating Joe head as what we get to
have that on screen as we're wrapping up here for the day.
Makes me happy. Those kids, they're so goofy. And, having Frosty as a friend and somebody who I do podcasts with, it was so hard to watch what the ng-conf team had to go through this year, because they were on the edge of their seats wondering, is the government going to shut us down? Are we going to be able to pay rent, right? Like, what's going to happen? And it was just absolutely just amazing to watch how hard they worked to pivot, to turn everything around, and then just the energy and the passion that they're still able to bring on stage. It's just amazing. And I have the greatest respect for these gentlemen and for all of the organizers that are just pouring their heart and soul into this. So I know there's been hiccups, but I'm still really proud.
Honestly, very, very minor hiccups for what they're pulling off for sure. And what I found great about the entire day so far is that I still feel like I'm at ng-conf, and not just because I recognize people's faces, but the general attitude, right? I really like going to ng-conf, and it's something I look forward to every year. So even though I'm doing it from the comfort of my own home this year, which is still great, but the fact that I still feel like that energy is around me, I think is very big that they're able to pull that off.
Absolutely incredible. And next year is going to be wonderful. And, I'm really proud of them. So I really look forward to these next 2 days of sessions. I think they're both longer and fuller sessions. And I think we even have a couple of speakers that they might maybe be adding to the schedule. And so really excited to see, just to see the content and to, like you said, be surrounded by that vibe again. So
for sure.
Tune in. Oh,
yeah, and
we have prizes, don't we?
Yeah, we we have prizes today. Yeah, I should say. Yeah, we shouldn't. We don't hang up yet, right? We definitely have some Bose headphones. I know that we have our lovely moderator Sarah's helping us out here, and she's been typing away as we've been going through. And I know that we had a form that we've been pasting a link to, that progress.co. And I don't have that on my machine. So let's see if we can do. Oh, we have to pick a number between 1 and 28. So what's your favorite number between 1 and 28, Alyssa?
Well, okay, so 42 is obviously the go-to answer, but it's not under 28. So do we split it in half?
Nah, that's not random enough.
Okay.
That's not random enough.
Okay, random. Random. How do I don't know.
Off the top of your head, between 1 and 28.
3.
There you go. It's 3. We did it.
That's not random enough. I'm doing math here. How much more random?
Oh, no, you're not doing that. No. You said 3.
Yeah.
Under pressure. Me making noises.
3 is great, and now number 21 is really sad. Although actually, she's telling me to check the chat.
It's all in burn.
But we also have T-shirts to give away too. So maybe we could.
Yeah, we do.
Make sure that number.
I don't know if we should be handing out those T-shirts now, or if we're just randomly selecting them kind of post stream here. This is the fun part about doing this live, where we know. Yeah, exactly. We know about some prizes.
Let's see, I'm pulling up the chat to see if we've got any extra info. We'll send T-shirts to everyone in the States, Sarah said. Wow, excelente. Well, I do apologize for the hiccups. I'm going to get better and better at streaming, and I think we all, as a remote world, will come together and just be awesome. So tomorrow will be more amazing. Hit us up on the Twitters at KendoUI, at Alyssa Nicoll, and then Carl, what's yours? It's I think
at Carl Bergenhem. So just my last name's harder than I think most people anticipate, but it's just a bunch of E's.
I think I got you. So. I got this one. So there it is. There's the spelling and the sad Ward Bell face that I wasn't able to pull in. But at least you've got our Twitters.
Yeah, so we'll be back doing a similar thing to what we did today tomorrow, covering everything that happened in day 2, and then on day 3 as well. So, for those of you on the East Coast, you might be eating some dinner while watching us, and I appreciate that. And for those of you in the rest of the world, I think we had some folks kind of scatter around. We'll definitely catch you at different times. Although if you're in Europe, you should probably go to bed. It's we're now the late show for you. I don't know. We might have to have a band. We might have to have some comedy skits.
Popcorn. I don't know why. When I think late night, I'm like, you gotta have popcorn.
Yeah.
So get some popcorn.
A lot going on there.
But no, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow after the ng-conf sessions wrap up. So come back and check us out at Code It Live.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.